Host of the American Open on TGCTours this week, Barton Hills is going to be unforgiving with tiny, narrow fairways and approaches to very unreceptive greens. The distinctive bunkering and a lack of par fives creating very few scoring opportunities. Short games will be vital. With also a number of long par fours and even the shorter holes possessing really tricky greens, this is going to be a course where you want to really choose your moment as to when to attack. This is every hole at Barton Hills. The first hole is a 474-yard par 4, playing slightly up the hill and around a corner. The tee shot really sets the tone for the rest of the round. You've got an angled fairway with working slightly against you and two awkwardly placed bunkers, meaning a partial driver may be your best bet. But that leaves an even longer approach to a perched green with a very strong false front, and as you can see, some pretty devilish pin positions. The middle of the green is no really bad bet here, but there are some tricky putts there. The second is a shorter hole at just 420 yards, but the tee shot is no less difficult. There are awkward bunkers, which mean that your best play might be to lay up with a 3-wood, but with a green that again is perched just over bunkers and some tricky pin positions, you want as short a club as you can do. You can split the middle of those fairway bunkers, but beware that the fairway could roll out. And again, this green will offer decent rolls back to the pin, but you want to be careful again of the little false front. Part of the defence at Barton Hills comes in its 5 par 3s, which are all challenging. The third is one of the most difficult, a tilted green away from the player and sloping down the hill, and 194 odd yards to back pins. It's also quite downhill, so you want to be judging your club right. The further you go, the deeper into the green, the more precise you have to be. The fourth hole is about as penal as they come, with a long 500 odd yard par 4, but the landing zone is blocked off by a string of cross bunkers. Downwind you can carry this, but actually the approach may be more tricky to try to stop on the green that can flow away from you, whereas pitching up short of it might leave you a longer shot and potentially even a wood into this green. There are slopes that will help you get the ball close, but actually playing this as a 3-shotter if you're not sure of getting home in 2 might be one of your best bets. Beware also the runoff at the back of the green. This hole is drivable, the fifth, and the green isn't protected by too much other than short grass and long grass, but you don't want to be going too far off. The layup out to the left is tricky and can leave a tough approach in, but it is certainly safer, although the fairway is not easy. As you can see, the green is small, heavily contoured, and you want to think really carefully about where your next shot is going to be played from. The sixth is one of a number of reverse camber doglegs on the course, and this one gives you the illusion of a fairway that's pretty easy to hit, but you might want to be laying up to the bottom of the hill to be safe. However, the green is very shallow and very pitched from back to front, and long is out of bounds, so you've got to be careful of going over the back of it. The shorter club you have into this green, the better your chances of holding it and sticking it close for a birdie putt. With the previous holes difficult, the seventh is downright mean. It's a nasty tight dogleg where the further you can cut over these two bunkers guarding the inside, the better angle you're going to have into a tiny green that's guarded by water back and right and a heavy bunker very deep on the inside of it. It's one where you want to consider where actually laying up just short of the green is never a bad miss, and actually just finding the front of the green isn't too bad, although it may end up leading to a chip over that slightly crowned area just off the bunker. In many ways, the eighth hole is a bit of a mirror image of the third. The green tilts the other way. It's slightly uphill, even if it plays at a similar distance, and this one again is all about the green, which features a big spine in the middle and a tiny back tier on which you have 2 pins that sit. This one's all about hitting the right tier, take your 2 putts and get off. One of only 2 par 5s on the course, the ninth features one of the trickiest fairways to hold, with a severe slope towards the river, and any really big miscues could end up reloading from the tee. However, that's not actually the trickiest shot. The green flows very hard from front to back and from left to right, and you want to be picking your landing zone with care, although sometimes being long of this green may be easier than being short. Certainly for this pin, the closer you can land it to those front bunkers, the more chance you have of ending up close to the hole. There can be eagles, but it could be one where you're walking off with a par. Although long at 250 odd yards, the 10th is possibly the easiest of the par 3s on the course, in that you just have to hit a solid long club. Many of the slopes actually work the ball towards the pins, and if it's back, you've got a lot of green to work with. This one is really about hitting the right spot on the green and hopefully giving yourself a decent look. Pars will be pretty easy to come by here. Whilst Barton will show its teeth with the length, many of the bite really comes on the shorter par 4s, and never is that more true than with the 11th, which is the most awkward tee shot on the course, followed by probably the most awkward approach. A fairway that's disconnected leaves very few options, and an awkwardly placed tree can pose problems if you miss the fairway. There's then a tabletop green with all sorts of slopes, and really getting away with a par on this hole is good. In true American Open fashion, the par 4 500-yard 12th is one of the toughest holes on the course and simply requires you to hit a fade off the tee and a draw into the green. Sounds easy enough, but the fairway is hard to hold and you need to be playing off the fairway to approach this green, which, whilst big, is at an awkward angle and features some unnatural sloping. It does also overlook the 13th, which is going to haunt a number of golfers on this round. The shortest par 3 on the course sees you just teeing off with 9-iron or pitching wedge, but there's danger all around this green and nowhere to hide. It's a tiny green with fierce slopes, and there's every risk of ending up in the water, even if you're putting off the green. It's not a friendly hole, it's very penal, and you'll do well to come away with 4 3s on this one. The tiniest amount of respite comes at the 14th, which is the second par 5 on the course, and you can get home in 2, although you have to be very courageous on the drive, taking on a very choked landing area. Once you've hit that, you're then facing a green that is pretty hard to hit and hold. It's pretty much perpendicular to the line of play, and actually laying up may be more prudent, although the layup zones aren't easy either. You feature a green that runs away from the player pretty significantly, but birdies very much can be had here if you're not too cavalier. The river comes back into play on the 15th, and the more you can chew off of the river, the better your angle into the green, although those 3 little cross bunkers make your decision a little bit more tricky, particularly into wind. You can play to the far side, but that worsens your angle into the green, and a green that is benched into the water and flows towards it is not easy to approach. Another hole where you can have birdies, and actually the further the pin is towards the water, the more chance you have of having them, but it's not an easy hole. The final of our par 3s at Barton Hills is another 200-yard behemoth, and this one features a very quirky green shape around a mound and a little hollow on the left-hand side. The sucker pin, for pin 1, really tempts you to go for it, but getting it close would be more luck than judgment, and you're better advised playing towards the middle of the green. There are other pin positions that take you close to the fall-off on the right-hand side, and pin really dictates how you play this one. Just 2 holes left, but still 1,000 yards to cover between the 17th and the 18th. The 17th is probably one of the friendliest holes on the course, with a drive that plays to a hogsback fairway where you'll want to be precise to avoid being kicked into the bunkers, but it's relatively open, and the approach to the green, again, if you're hitting your spot, the green all funnels the ball towards the hole, so there is a chance of a birdie here even on such a long hole. The final hole of a difficult round, the 18th, there's a 500-yard par 4, as expected. This one features a drive down towards the water where you'll want to be careful not to run out of fairway, but also trying to get as close as you can in order to ensure that you've got the shortest club possible going into the green, which is heavily contoured and features 2 plateaus left and right, as well as a little mound in the centre. It's an approach where you can easily hit the green, and for certain pins you can funnel the ball close, but it does demand accuracy, and is a worthy US Open finishing hole. So that concludes our round at Barton Hills, and it's certainly a challenging course. Just a par 69 with 2 par 5s. It's not going to be easy to go very low on, but it will allow you to hit shots if you hit the correct shots. It's very much a penal golf course. There's very little option other than to go for it, but you are rewarded if you hit those shots correctly and punished when you don't. Above all, Barton is going to be a very tough test and will ensure that the player with the best game wins. Now, much of that will come when putting on the greens, but equally, it will test players off the tee as well, with you often having to shape shots in order to hold tricky, contoured fairways with tight landing zones. Approach shots will be vital as well. You want to be leaving yourself below the hole and really thinking about where it is that you miss, if indeed you are missing. Hopefully we'll see a good contest and someone playing very well and coming out on top. Do give it a spin, Platinum Tour, if you can.